What does Slender the Arrival hide from the player behind the scenes? In Slender the Arrival, you'll explore nearly a dozen horrifying chapters while evading the legendary faceless man himself, the Slender Man. In this reimagining of the 8 pages, you'll uncover the grim details of your childhood friend's disappearance by exploring forests, dark mines, and even abandoned hospitals in search of answers. Today, we'll be pulling the curtain back and taking a closer look at how this game works behind the scenes, as well as finding some pretty interesting secrets out of bounds. Like, did you know there's a hidden cat tower in the second chapter? We'll also be breaking some things as we go, so I hope you enjoy today's behind the scenes look at Slender the Arrival. When you're out wandering in the spooky woods, you never know what you're gonna find, or what's going to find you. Wolves, bats, and vampires? How about all three? Behavior Interactive, the sponsor of today's video, has welcomed the Castlevania universe into Dead by Daylight with their second Konami collaboration. Play as Dracula and Trevor Belmont from the iconic series in the roles of the killer or survivor. Dracula has the ability to transform from a vampire into a wolf or bat to specialize in different areas of the hunt. And I gotta say, he has a lot of versatility because of this. Each form changes your speed and abilities, and being able to cycle through them can really keep the survivors guessing. Raining down fire from afar is of course incredible as well, making Dracula an amazing addition to the roster as Dead by Daylight's first vampire killer. Trevor Belmont has his own set of unique perks, like the Eyes of Belmont. They allow you to see the killer's aura on the map once you fix a generator. I invite you to discover the rest of these useful perks by hopping in the game now. And no, Trevor, you unfortunately cannot pet the dog. So jump into the fog today with Dead by Daylight Castlevania by clicking my link in the description below. And a big thanks to Behavior Interactive for supporting me on YouTube. So because this game is split up into multiple chapters, I'll be giving a quick recap for each level as we get to it. After starting a new game, the first chapter we play through is a brief prologue. We're stopped in the road by a barricade, meaning we'll have to leave our car behind and proceed on foot. We follow a forest path through the eerie hills as the opening credits play, and the sky grows darker as we near the house in the distance. By the time we enter, it's pitch black outside, so we'll have to find a flashlight somewhere within the house to continue. We grab a key which opens this bedroom lined with Slender Man drawings, and then head out back in the direction of the radio tower. We'll turn some generators on as we follow the path through the hills, catching an occasional glimpse of Slender Man in the distance. A burnt house sits along this path where we'll find Charlie Matheson Jr., who jump scares us when approached, and the prologue comes to an end as we enter Oakside Park. Heading back to the start of this chapter, I first want to have a quick look around the map. Our vehicle is parked behind us, and though we can't hop in and nope out of here like a reasonable person, it's still a fully modeled car. There aren't any bodies in the trunk though, so there's not much to see here. Taking a look at this level from an aerial perspective, it's a lot bigger than I'd ever expected. The area we walk through is a small section of forest, but the woods extend quite a ways beyond the fences blocking us in. The plain we traverse during the prologue is only a small portion of the grander map around us, and sitting just below the main level area is a much larger mountain range. This external area only exists to serve as a backdrop, essentially making the level seem larger than it really is. What's odd is that there's a single piece of brick wall floating down here in the void, and I have no idea why. It seems to be a section of the perimeter wall that surrounds the house, but I can't say for sure. As we approach the house, the sky will begin to darken, and night falls upon us pretty much instantly. From another angle, we can watch this take place, and see that the clouds themselves speed up during the process. We can basically control time by simply walking, which is a bit scarier than Slender Man if I'm honest. Heading inside the house, I picked up the flashlight and had a look at the player from another angle, where I found that we're only a pair of floating arms. Although the player has a fully cast shadow when walking outside, we're only a pair of first-person disembodied arms holding a flashlight. I also have all the lighting effects disabled, so they're currently jet black in appearance. After grabbing the flashlight, we'll also be able to catch a quick look at the Slender Man from outside the window. And here, we can have a closer look. At first, when moving the camera around, there was a distortion effect being used to obscure his appearance, which made him look, bold and brash. The distortion effect warps him in a hilarious way, and I honestly sat here messing with him for far longer than I thought I would. The game is currently paused, so this distortion only moves when the camera is also moving, resulting in some pretty entertaining visuals. After unpausing the game, this effect will eventually stop, and we can have a less distorted look at him. Typically, when the Slender Man is visible on screen, our video camera will glitch out and feel static, so we never have a chance to look at him in all his glory. He is, as you'd expect, a faceless, pale figure wearing a snazzy suit, and he has what looks like burn marks covering his skin. Creepiest of all, he doesn't even respect the laws of gravity, as his feet are floating just above the tops of the grass. Either physics don't apply to him, or he's simply light enough to stay on the grass, both of which are equally unnerving. Once the bedroom upstairs is unlocked, we can head inside, which directs us to the water tower on the far side of the woods. There are a ton of drawings covering the walls, which are pretty cool when seen with the lights on, though a lot of them are duplicates. Heading through the backyard and following the path, there are several locations the Slender Man can be spotted standing in, and he'll always teleport away when you look at him. By moving the camera around the map, we can watch as he warps between said locations even though the game is currently paused. The Slender Man is definitely a camera-shy fellow, since I can't even get close to him before he teleports elsewhere. Before heading into Oakside Park, I wanted to take a look inside the burnt house to get a better look at Charlie, and man, was that a bad idea. This enemy is pretty horrifying with the lights on, as you can see each terrifying detail. His skin is a blue color with red markings covering his body, and I honestly don't even know where to start with his face. It looks as though his eyes are solid black, with dark rings surrounding them. I expected this model to be creepy, but I definitely wasn't expecting this. If you watch his jump scare from a different angle, you'll see that he just kind of turns around and leans back, sort of punching at the air in the process. This is such a fast animation. Even in super slow motion, it only lasts a fraction of a second. You also can't see this taking place usually, since the screen is covered by spooky flashing images. Something I found interesting is that just beneath the burnt house, there's what looks like a hidden pond down here. It's a small body of water that's full of foliage and plant life, and there's a missing section of the ground that leads into the void. I would have preferred a regular basement, but hey, it's definitely unique. That being said, we can now head into Oakside Park and begin the next chapter. So as we enter the park, we'll begin a minigame highly reminiscent of the original Slender game. Equipped with our handy-dandy flashlight, we'll seek out 8 drawings scattered throughout the map, placed on various objects. After the first page is collected, a familiar thumping sound begins, and from here, it's a matter of collecting the remaining 7 pages. And surviving, of course. With each page you collect, our Slender friend becomes more aggressive, following you more closely and even teleporting in front of you at random. Once each page is found, you'll be forced jump scared before a running cutscene plays out, eventually waking up in an empty field as Chapter 3 begins. After restarting the level and flipping the lights on, we can have a quick look at the map from an aerial perspective. There are 3 large sections that make up this map: the main forest area, the mountains in the distance, and of course the lake. The lake is one giant square with 4 repeating textures, and it extends a lot further than I'd expected. The mountains are a completely separate part of the level and exist exclusively as a piece of set dressing. The same goes for the radio tower behind it. Now, while taking a look out of bounds, I noticed a couple of map assets where they shouldn't be. Investigating them further reveals that 2 of the page locations, the brick building and the porta potty, are currently floating a good distance out of bounds. Taking a look inside the building, we'll find that in several locations there are blank white pages attached to the walls. These empty papers are spots that the pages can load in once the chapter begins, and for some reason they're all visible here at the same time. The same thing applies to the porta potty as well, with all 4 sides containing a solid white page. As to why these objects are here, it turns out that not every landmark where a page can spawn in occupies the map at the same time. I later reloaded the chapter and moved the camera back out here only to find the construction area and the Jeep loaded instead. I then took a look back inside the map only to find the brick building was once again present, and the page was found in one of the predetermined places. And just a short way from here, the porta potty was also found along the pathway. I hadn't realized at first that these assets change anytime the chapter is reloaded, which made it a lot harder to get my bearings straight when reattempting this. On top of this, there are also multiple locations you can spawn in after entering the park. Currently, these other locations are a bit broken. Because they're on opposite sides of the park, the game has temporarily unloaded most of their parts to prevent unnecessary strain on your machine, resulting in these mostly empty buildings. Speaking of empty buildings though, there's a tall structure out of bounds right next to the lake that holds a pretty interesting secret. The inside of the tower walls are plastered with an image of an orange cat wearing what looks like a Superman cape. I definitely didn't expect this, and I can't make any sense of why it's here, but it's still glorious. If you know who this heroic feline is, let me know in the comments. I'm dying to know. But now let's take a look at the main star of this attraction, our old pal Slender Man. After clicking the first page, or simply waiting long enough, he'll load in somewhere in the vicinity of the player and begin moving throughout the map. As he moves, he'll basically just teleport around us, which is sort of unfair. As we look on in horror, he'll keep warping around us and even slide across the ground like a statue at times. What's creepy is that here, he teleported directly behind me, and I wouldn't have known if I didn't have the camera detached. He can literally appear anywhere, which is kind of overpowered. For the most part, this stays consistent throughout this level, and no matter how many pages you collect, his approach will remain the same, just a little more aggressive. From here, I ran around the map collecting pages, which unsurprisingly is a lot easier during the daylight. As I snagged the final page, we can watch the jump scare sequence from a third-person view. Here, Slender just kind of pops into existence behind us, growing tendrils from his back to lose them a moment later. We're then warped elsewhere in the map, and we're forced to run forward through multiple locations, eventually running into Slender Man beyond the fence. The game then loads us into the following chapter, Into the Abyss. As we enter this chapter, we wake up in a clearing near the mountainside, and as we head forward, there are a few empty buildings and a few paper scraps to pick up. But beyond that, we're only in this area for a moment before moving on. Continuing forward means heading into the giant spooky tunnel ahead, which happens to be the entrance to the Coleman Mines. Unfortunately for you Minecraft fans, there are no diamonds ahead, only a terrifying trek into the darkness and a few too many generators. In order to take the lift up and out of this awful place, 6 generators must be located in order to turn the power on. Kate, one of Slender's proxies, will load in after a couple of generators are powered on and begin pursuing you. And you can only be jump scared a few times before having to start over. Towards the end of this challenge, Slender himself can spawn in and join the chase. After each generator is powered, we can take the elevator up and dive into the next chapter. Reloading the chapter, I wanted to take a quick look at the map around us. The first thing I found rather interesting was these white walls placed out of bounds. These large 3D walls are present only on this side of the map, and some of them even show through the top of the mountain. They could be just leftover white boxing from when this map was being built, but I can't say for certain. Up ahead, we'll find a small cabin we walked past shortly after starting the chapter, and I was curious what was inside its walls. Turns out it's just an empty cabin, though it is fully textured on the inside, which is neat. On the far side of the clearing, we'll find yet another building, this time a shed, and it's the same story, a fully rendered building with nothing inside. There's not much to see out here beyond this, so let's head into the mines. This area, even with the lights on, is a frustrating labyrinth that I can barely navigate. There are so many winding turns down here, and everything blends together, so I feel a bit better about getting lost as many times as I did. While taking a look at the mine area, something I noticed was just how tall the elevator is. Beneath the main platform, we can find the rest of the elevator out of bounds, sticking way down into the void. Currently, we have no generators active, so there are no threats present on the map. But after a couple are powered on, Kate will spawn somewhere near the player and begin roaming the halls. Up close, we can have a good look at them, and they're very Jeff the Killer in appearance. They've got a bloody white hoodie on and jet black hair laying in their face. Here we can see their mask a lot more clearly, including all of his creepy details. It's covered in black scrapes and seems to be stitched together in the front. But something you may not know is that Kate's actual face can be seen beneath it as well. By moving the camera inside her mask, we can see her face underneath, which seems to be covered in scars and burn marks, I think. We can also watch from this angle as she stalks the mines in search of the player, hunched over slightly as she does. After she spots you, she begins running at you standing mostly upright instead of slouching. Her posture is a lot better now, but this is bad news for us, as she'll jump scare you the moment she comes in contact. Typically, we can only see them swiping in our face as we're attacked, but now we can view the whole thing in its entirety. As soon as she reaches us, she leaps into the air like a professional wrestler, and I mean really leaps. She then lands on our currently invisible face, pushing us down, and beginning to swipe at us while floating in the air. Eventually, she drops down to the floor and finishes her jump scare, running away immediately after. We can also slow her down by shining our light in her face, which makes her stop in her tracks and block the light with her hand. We don't need our flashlight to stop her though. We have the technology. Here I can just freeze her where she stands using my Hackerman powers and going to activate the generators at my leisure. This of course removes the challenge altogether, so I had another idea. What if we sped her up instead? Well, as you can see, she moves at the speed of light, so maybe you can't see. The only safe place to try this was on the shelves, since she can't reach me from the floor or jump down onto the shelf with me. What happened next was a bit weird though. She clipped through the railing and got stuck on the edge, and I thought she was permanently stuck. I could have been more wrong though, and she warped away as soon as Slender Man appeared, just to run up on me a moment later. Now as we continue on to the next chapter, we'll head up the elevator and walk to the exit, which doesn't currently exist. Because the loading zone is just beyond the platform itself, we'll never see the end of this hallway. And if you could, you'd find that it leads straight into the void. So as we escape the mines and continue on our path to the radio tower, we'll walk along this mountainside with the forest stretching as far into the distance as we can see. Here, there are 2 chapters that can be accessed by interacting with objects in in this map, the first being this little teddy bear. In doing so, you'll be sent into a memory where Charlie and his parents are at the beach on a sunny day. A glimmer in the distance catches your attention, and as you investigate, you'll find a toy in the sand. This happens a few more times, leading you into the forest as the sun quickly sets. Your parents then begin calling for you as you walk through the fog, eventually being attacked by these black tendrils, enveloping Charlie and sending us back to the mountainside. Restarting this mini chapter, we can take a closer look at Charlie's parents, where I found that the mom doesn't have textured eyeballs. A basic grid material is applied, which is really creepy to look at. As they talk, their mouths don't move, and they stay here indefinitely. Also, the path behind us simply leads to a dead end, so we never really had a chance of escaping. As I was about to enter the foggy woods, I moved the camera back to find that even though his parents' voices sounded much closer now, they're still in the same exact location. When we head up the hill, we can also watch as the sky turns to night, and it's a lot easier to see with the lighting effects disabled. We can also have a look at the dark tendrils that ensnare us, and if we follow them to their starting point, we can see that they extend through the map itself, floating in midair. There are actually several sets of these evil dark noodles, and when viewed from above, we can see just how perilous our situation is. When they eventually catch you, they'll all intertwine on top of Charlie, creating a spider-like appearance as a shadowy effect blocks the player's view. What a fun way to spend the summer. That's really it for this short memory, so now let's check out the next chapter accessible here. So as we head inside of this small restricted building, we can find and grab this book, which throws us into the extended chapter, Nightmare. Here we can see Charles, Charlie's father, drawing on a notebook. We then see Charlie outside the window, and subsequently get jump scared by Slendy. We then wake up in a hospital, find what I can only assume is a body in a trash bag, and then run into a crying child in a hallway. He disappears as we approach, so we continue exploring until we find a door with a teddy bear inside, and we spot Charlie as we turn around. We continue on through the small room, getting blocked by a cave-in, and turn back to find a floating body. It's also, wiggling? Oh, never mind, it's back to normal. We can then head to the exit, just to be blocked as the alarm sounds. We then poppy playtime our way through some vents as Charlie follows, dropping down in front of the same child as before. We get jump scared by Slender as we try to leave, just to get another jump scare as we head into the basement. Here, we face the amnesia water monster as we look for the exit, disabling the security lockdown and finding the mystery child floating in an open room. The lights go off, Slender chases us, we head upstairs to the vents, dropping us in the lobby once more, only to find the mystery child again. We then appear in a huge empty room with half a dozen Slendermen, only to wake up at the start of the hospital a moment later. We then follow some spooky text, suddenly waking up in a burnt house as the chapter ends. Now, as we start this chapter over, I move the camera back to find that we're headless. We're also missing our left arm. So there's not much Slender could do that would be any worse. Also, before we even get control of the player, Slender Man is already loaded in behind us by the door. We just can't see him, since the camera doesn't move in that direction during this cutscene. And there's a room beyond this door that we never see during this sequence, so it's a bit strange that it's fully furnished. Zooming out, the house sits on top of a small grassy plain, floating in the nothingness of space, and we can even see the burnt house used later in this chapter just beside it. I'm pretty sure this is the same house we explore in the prologue as well, just with less assets placed throughout. And speaking of which, the proxy version of Charlie is the figure seen outside the window. Way out in the distance, we can also see the hospital in the middle of a much larger forest. Majority of the assets are not currently loaded in because we're not close enough to it, but all the doors are present and floating in their proper place. As we turn around and get jump scared, we're warped across the void into the hospital where things are now properly loaded in. First things first, the bloody trash bag stashed in the closet is completely empty inside, so we can confirm that it was not a body after all. Just up ahead we'll run to a small child, who I believe is Charlie, and here we can get a better look at him. He's standing at the end of the hall crying, but he has no facial animations, so he's crying with a completely flat expression, which is somehow even scarier. When we approach, the screen flashes white and the child vanishes instantly. Up ahead we'll pass through a room where a teddy bear is hidden in the closet, and opening the door results in the proxy version of Charlie spawning behind us. He disappears pretty much instantly after turning around, but here you can see him fully. His neck is twisted sideways as he stares at us, and he's in a very primal pose. The moment we turn around, he gets Thanos snapped out of existence. This hospital is the jump scare center of the world, so as we head through the next hallways, we'll be blocked by a cave-in. The ceiling collapses and rubble prevents us from continuing on. And from another angle, we can watch as a hospital bed magically appears to pull this off. As we head back the other way, we pass through the room with the body bag once more. Only this time it decides to start levitating. Glorious! I'm not sure who or what is inside of this body bag, but they sure can shake it. It's interesting because unlike the Slender Man, the distortion effect used here only affects this particular model and not the space around it. It then falls as we enter the room, and things go back to normal. Well, as normal as you can get in a haunted, Silent Hill-inspired hospital, that is. Up ahead, we'll climb into the vents and engage in a huggy-wuggy type chase with Charlie. They just sort of spawned in behind you and chased you through the vents, but for some reason, he randomly vanished halfway through the sequence. I'm not sure why this happened, but he's gone, so I'm not complaining. Below this vent, we'll run to Charlie, who is still crying, completely expressionless, which is still incredibly creepy. As we walk forward, we can watch as these vines form around us, and they're a lot bigger than you think. They grow inside this corridor, but also out of bounds. They're actually so tall they nearly reach the floors above us. Further ahead, we'll open the door to the morgue, where we find Charlie suspended from the ceiling. Upon closer inspection, the rope asset used here is just sort of coiled up like it's touching an invisible floor, so it's not even fully attached to him. We'll play it safe and assume he's doing just fine. It could be a chiropractic thing after all. A key is needed to unlock the following door, and it's hidden somewhere in the morgue. There are also false keys placed here, and if we grab one, it explodes into a giant mess of vampiric pizza sauce. This was a lot more surprising than I realized, and since I had to see it, so do all of you. You'll never forget this saucy meatball. You're welcome. After unlocking the door, we meet the amnesia water monster as it traverses the basement. We can't see anything as it moves around, only the splashes of water that indicate its presence. I can't say if the likeness was intentional or not, but if it was, this is a really cool callback to one of horror's scariest enemies. Heading upstairs, we'll find the crying child himself, still completely unfazed by everything that's going on. He's being levitated by some unseen force, and he couldn't care less. As we enter the room, he'll disappear as the lights go out, and the room changes around us. Slender Man then appears and styles on us by sliding across the floor aggressively, vanishing as we continue up the stairs and up onto the roof. Not much happens until we get back to the lobby, where we can find Charlie one final time, crying in front of the tree outside. As we approach, the camera will move into his face as a giant black box appears around the player camera. We're then warped away, but during the sequence I wasn't teleported, so the group of Slender Boys appeared in the courtyard around me. I then woke up at the start of the hospital as usual, and the rest of the sequence played out unchanged. If we continue following the path around this mountainside, we'll eventually enter an old construction building, and in it are two tapes. Putting the Homestead tape into the VCR, we enter a chapter where we play as a character named CR. As we document the property, we'll find that the barn is completely dark, and a generator must be fueled in order to continue. In order to do so, we'll step into the world's most terrifying cellar, encountering Charlie as we search for the gas canister. Once found, we can exit the cellar, once more avoiding Charlie as he runs by. We then power up the barn's lights, grab a key in the pasture behind it, and head through the field again to reach the chapel. Unlocking the gate and heading inside, we'll encounter Slender Man as we walk through the door, though he only appears for a second. After stealing some poor kids' toys, Charlie will break the door open and chase us back into the house. We head upstairs and drop down to the main hallway, once again encountering Charlie as he runs us out. The camera is then dropped as CR and Charlie run by. After we've restarted the chapter, we can view this map from an outside perspective, where we'll find that it's only a small section of land surrounded by trees. I also checked out the treehouse in search of secrets, but no such luck. With the lights now on though, I moved the camera inside the barn before the lights were turned on, and it's much less creepy now. Without all the grim lighting, it's just a regular barn on a probably haunted plot of land. We can't enter the barn before the lights are powered on because there's actually a black barrier placed here that prevents us from moving forward. However, I wasn't going to be stopped by a lousy cube, so I shrunk the player down and walked past it. I was able to explore as usual and could even grab the key without entering the cellar at all, which is a pretty big win. Typically, when we leave the cellar, Charlie will appear in the field and run after us, disappearing into the tall grass as they pass by. Due to this sequence break, he didn't appear, and I could head straight for the chapel. In the case that they do spawn in, we can see that they'll run past us and hunch down the grass. They're not capable of reaching us if we stand in the front of the gates though, and by walking near it, they'll always return to the junction in the center. When entering the chapel, Slendy himself appears at the front door as soon as we pass through it. When viewed from another angle, we can see him appear and disappear pretty much instantly. He usually remains until you turn around, but because the camera was facing him, he vanished, which happened in the prologue as well. After picking up the toys, we can watch from the outside the door as Charlie loads in, clipping through the staircase. After a moment, he'll snap into his lunging animation as the door opens, running after us a second later. What's hilarious is that before chasing us down, he'll do a Scooby-Doo wind-up, which is way funnier than it should be. As we leave and the door closes behind us, even though we can hear him throwing a fit, he vanishes as soon as it shuts. Next, he appears behind the barricaded door when we drop down from the attic, and once again, he just sort of appears. He then drops the craziest Gangnam Style you've ever seen before chasing us again. As we drop the camera and run past it, you'll see that the model used for CR is actually Kate from the mines. She runs past the camera and returns to an A pose, and the same goes for Charlie. With Homestead out of the way, we can play the other tape, which drops us off in Kate's house for a quick chapter called Escape. After grabbing the flashlight, the impending approach of Slender Man forces you to run through the house, shutting all the doors and windows before you can enter. He will inevitably enter the house though, forcing you to hide in the bedroom where he appears and jump scares you. With the lights on, we can take a closer look at Kate, and she looks a lot different considering she has not yet become a proxy. By moving the camera outside, we'll find that this level reuses the same base as the prologue. It's just missing all the usable objects and buildings. Outside the house, Slender waits in the rain, staring until we either look at him or leave the room. Also, the weather forecast is extremely local showers today. When we're told to hide inside of our room, we'll head through the door, and from this angle, we can watch Slender Man appear as this short chapter comes to an end. We can now leave the building containing the TV as we begin a chapter called Arrival. As we head up the mountain, we'll pass through a small cave, popping out in the burning forest on the other side. Slender Man chases us up the hillside, eventually leading us to the radio tower at the very top. The door slams behind us as we head inside, and the footsteps of an invisible entity can be heard echoing throughout. Following the small fires, we'll eventually find who I believe is CR, laying back against the wall, though he's a bit crispy at the moment. We then listen to a recording on this camera as the fires behind us die out, and Charlie runs at us through the darkness. We then wake up in the basement where Charlie is blocking the stairs, and after picking up a note, he'll disappear, giving us access to the rest of the house. We find Kate crying in the corner upstairs, and when we approach, she transforms and attacks us, with the game ending as we're dragged off screen. For the most part, there isn't a whole lot to check out in this section in regards to hidden stuff, though there was something I wanted to try. After successfully sneaking through the barn by shrinking myself, I want to see if it would work here too. To my surprise, it actually worked. Because I was so small, I was able to sneak through these tiny openings behind the falling trees, meaning it was a lot easier to get past the Slender Man. Not all of them had an opening though, and I took a lot of damage trying to get through, eventually running into it once more and dying. I managed to find a usable path though, and got through most of the level without ever encountering the Slender Man. Heading up the hill, I entered the radio tower facility and began running through to the end. I then tried running back and discovered something interesting. For some reason, by shrinking myself, I could clip through the doors. That means the doors locking behind me didn't mean anything anymore. I could also walk back outside where most of the map had been visually disabled. I could still walk around on the ground, but I couldn't see most of the map. Heading back inside, I completely skipped the key, which means the invisible entity never spawned. Due to this, I could activate the camera and run as far away as possible. And when Charlie spawned in, I was completely safe. I camped out near one of the forest fires for a while, but he never came after me. Heading back inside, I found that Charlie was stuck at the start of the chase and couldn't move, and an invisible barrier prevented me from entering again. This means I unfortunately had to stand on the fire until I died so I could continue. So as I entered the basement, I realized that the house the player is teleported to is stored a great distance away from the rest of the level. It's hidden in this black sphere, and it's just kind of floating here like some kind of bootleg Zathura. Upstairs we can approach Kate, and as we do, she instantly unloads as the proxy model takes its place and leaps on us. After the screen goes black, we can see that the person being pulled off screen looks extremely similar to Kate. The masks are a bit different, and the clothes are similar, but also not identical. I'm not sure if this implies that the player has become a proxy, but this model is slowly pulled into the rubble before the game ends. After completing this chapter, we unlock another level called Genesis. This entire chapter is a callback to the original Slender of the 8 pages, as the maps are extremely similar. There are no cutscenes or dialogue, only the player with a flashlight, 8 pages to collect, and one Slender Boy on our tail. After all 8 pages are collected, we get jump scared and the game sends us back to the menu. With the lights on, we can explore the level a bit more and realize just how similar it is to the original. It's super cool to see the original objects reimagined in an updated way, and the nostalgia is palpable. Here we can finally take a look at Slender's jump scare as well, and by walking into him, we'll see that the tendrils grow from his back as he reaches out to shake our hand. As soon as we die, the camera is warped miles away from the rest of the level. He's in a small black sphere, and the camera simply aims at his face. We're so far away, in fact, that we can see the dome surrounding this map. But with that, that's everything I found hidden off camera in Slender the Arrival. Once again, a big thanks to Behavior Interactive for sponsoring this video. Check out both Dracula and Trevor Belmont Within the Fog by clicking my link in the description and pinned comment down below. If you enjoyed today's look behind the scenes, make sure you subscribe. That way you'll be notified for my next game-breaking video. Cheers!